Let's see.
All right. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to 7C Shop Talk as we preview this week's game against Marshall. I'm John,
And I'm Josh.
and we're here to bring you an in-depth look of this week's game against Marshall. Please forgive me my voice. I'm a little bit under the weather, but we're going to plow through and make it happen.
Yeah.
So, Josh, just last week, South Carolina, you're in the stands. What was the vibe like in the first half compared to the second half?
I say I think the crowd was very pumped in that first half. It was a whole different feeling. I think some of it had to do with what you probably couldn't see, which was concessions. That was a nightmare, apparently. And so I think that the people who came back from that to South Carolina doing much better, plus just, the after halftime kind of let down because there's not really a lot of hype going on, and then the somberness of the halftime show. I think that the crowd just didn't have the same energy, honestly.
I'll be honest with you too. On that day, the elevators in the tower, and it's not complaining. Like, I'll never complain. It's a beautiful facility, but they were packing them 25 deep. And so I was just like, I want to take the stairs. I ended up doing like 22 flights of stairs that day, going up and down. It was a huge buzz, electricity before the game. And it's just like when we were leaving, it was just totally dead.
Yeah, I mean, and after the game, I walked around a little bit in the concourse just to kind of see how fans were reacting a little bit. It looked like the fans kind of treated it as if it was just a normal outcome. It's like like the fans didn't seem disappointed. The fans kind of seemed like they were used to it, honestly. Like they were just like, all right, let's go about our Saturday. I mean,
yeah, and that's not what we're looking for. That's a danger. It's a red flag. Yeah, in the press box, they had in front of me at least 8 beat reporters for South Carolina, and they were pretty much in the first half. Oh, this is how it's going to go. Can't wait to play Georgia. Da 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 da. Until the second half, we're like, all right, now we're the SEC team. We're going to come back, and they were very confident. And it was just, you could just feel the vibe in the room. You could just almost see it like a slow motion train wreck coming.
Right.
But the big takeaway for me though is we have a good defense. Like, we have a good defense. They can handle South Carolina SEC caliber line. Yeah, man. Just this first play of the game, I actually did not get to my seat. I was in about the 5th level, and I heard the roar. And by the time I got to my seat, it was tough. I had to watch the replay, but that was a great start of the game. It was everything we wanted. Unfortunately, Tyler Snead finished the day with just 2 less passing yards than Holton Ahlers at 75. I think Ahlers finished at 77. Quarterback rating of 1,060 for the day. Obviously, a roughing the passer, but didn't get called. But it was a great start to the game. It was lit. They announced 40,000. I think right at the beginning of the game, there was probably a good 30,000 people in there, just lit. But the defense just, I mean, I'll say ball hawking, Saba there, just reading the quarterback's eyes. Everything was going well in the first half. I thought Nolan played very well, though, even in the first half. Just our offense just couldn't get going.
Oh, yeah. I think that – and it's crazy because I don't think people realize that South Carolina's best defensive lineman got called for a targeting play on like the first drive. Mm-hmm. And was out for the rest of the game. And I think ECU really didn't capitalize on that the way I thought that we would. I mean, we got a couple of runs, to the edge a little bit, but it wasn't – I don't think ECU took advantage of that offensively the way that I would expect you attacking that weak side now,
Yeah, and I would say too, and not to beat a dead horse, but Holton Ahlers has to play better. He looked, just shaky at best in the first half, but was getting it done. The defensive play here was great. I mean, watching that on ESPN on the replay, or trying to debate with the South Carolina guys, is that a fumble or not, was great. But not to beat the dead horse, though, but he has to do better. That game, he said it himself. I think he used the word badly 3 times to describe how he played. And it's terrible when the defense is finally starting to click and the offensive line and the offense in general is just tough. I had some people ask me what do you think is going on with CJ and just some of the receiving. It's just they just couldn't get any separation. Just like they were sewing on the whole time, and that makes it tough on Holton. But he made some terrible decisions, especially in the second half.
Yeah. I think that that decision right there by the offensive coordinator like I think some of the plays offensively and defensively, I think were great play calls. So I think that for me, I'm a little less concerned about the play calling than I was against Appalachian State.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Especially
night and day with the Appalachian State play call, but we just couldn't
right.
make the play. I don't know. What's your opinion? Because, like, in my opinion, I've talked to you about this before. I'm not opposed to throwing Mason Garcia out there, if not to light a fire under Holton a little bit more, but just to see what we have, like just to see what he can do. I know we saw him last year against Navy, but I just like to throw a ripple in there where somebody, the other teams hadn't had a chance to, really prepare for him. I don't know. It just seemed like evident. I was thinking at this point in the fourth quarter, we got to see Garcia at least for a drive, but I mean, it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, I think personally, I kind of feel like how offensive coordinator feels is. I mean, we were winning almost this entire game, and then it was tied up in the fourth quarter. But like, it doesn't. I understand that there was a lot of bad, decisions by Holton, and Holton says this himself. But I think that in the App State game, when it was well out of hand, throw in Mason Garcia, let him get some play against a really good defense, and just see what he can manifest, and then we could have built up the same kind of anticipation they did with the quarterback situation.
Sure. And that was the talk in the press box. At least throw him out there. Maybe even not even if you don't want to do a series, just a couple of plays. It just seemed it was just I think maybe they don't want to hurt Holton's confidence, but I think he's a big boy enough to know that, hey, we got to do what's best for the team. But at the same time, I'm not there every day. I'm not in practice. I assume the coaches know what's best for the team. But a lot of flack, a lot of comments on that. That was the big takeaway for me is people weren't happy with the coaching staff, especially in the second half.
So that brings up the question: are there any changes that ECU needs to make in terms of staff? Do you feel, or do you think it's just more in terms of on the field product right now?
To be honest with you, the AAC is a good conference, and we are still building up. I don't know. Like I like Kirkpatrick a ton on the offense. And last year, the last couple of games of the year, we really hit our stride. I think we're averaging like 560 yards a game, scoring like 30 points a game. And all of it, I thought, we're going to carry it right back into this year. Here we go, pick it up, and it just hasn't translated. Our defense, I can't complain about it. Staffing wise and personnel wise, they look amazing. The second game, I know maybe South Carolina is weird to say, but a step down offensively compared to App State. But I don't know. If Coach Houston wants to stay around, I even hate to say this, if he wants to stay around, he's got to do something this year drastic to, turn the tide. Firing people at this point in the season is probably not going to work for him, but got to do something.
Yeah, I think that in terms of, I think ECU has to make a change offensively somewhere on the staff this offseason. I'm not trying to call for anybody's job, but if ECU doesn't become bowl eligible, I think just because if you look at Coach Mo and how he handled not being successful, he was firing people every single year left and right, and it was like that right there kind of shortened his leash. And I think I like how Coach Houston's kind of handled it, where like he's just kind of taking the lumps the first few years and not really changing the staff in his own way, letting people leave via getting other jobs, but then, kind of a few years later, then making a change. And I think that kind of buys him more time, honestly.
Yeah, and it's just hard too when you look at I'm looking at the offensive stats right now. Holton Naylor's 11 for 24 for 77 yards and 2 interceptions. But outside Hatfield, who had that 75-yard reception to start the game, Tyler Snead, 5 catches, 35 yards. CJ, 2 catches, 15 yards. And that's it. The rest of your catches are from your running backs. Mitchell had 2 catches for 7 yards, and Harris had 1 for 5. I mean, you got to get the ball into your playmakers' hands. You got to find a way for Snead to get the ball, for CJ to get the ball. If they can't create separation, you got to do something with your play call to try to get them the ball. But I don't know. And that's what I was telling other people too. If you put Mason Garcia in there, so you couldn't have time to make the reads and do any better than Holton Nailers, I don't know. But somehow, some way, you got to get the ball. If it's a jet sweep, if it's bubble screens, which I hate to say because ECU really lived and died by those for a long time. But just something to
Oh
do
yeah.
to get the ball in the players' hands. But just the offensive line still struggling. Like I thought that was going to be a big step forward this year, but it just hasn't seemed to happen yet.
Yeah, I think that the injury to Malavik in the first game, I think that really threw ECU off a little bit. I think the position of center, I think having Avery in there is great. I think that he's
Mm-hmm.
doing a great job. I just think that maybe he would be better suited at guard to
Guard.
kind of push, to kind of push a little bit more of the
That's
talent, you know,
that's funny. I
around.
thought that too. Watching him, he looks like a guard.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it is next man up mentality. But I get it. But at this point, year three, you gotta have some depth, and you have to show some improvement. I'm looking down the schedule, and I'm thinking, where are we going to find the fourth win if you want to make improvement this year? It's going to be a tough road to hoe, especially with Marshall coming up.
Right. So with Marshall coming up, what are you looking forward to in seeing these teams go at it again?
So we were talking about before we started going live. Marshall is a beast. Like Marshall, and no offense to South Carolina or App State, but I think Marshall's going to have one of the best defensive lines we face this season. Look at the highlights now. I know Navy's down a little bit, but I mean these are men playing amongst boys right here, and we know how we've had our challenges against Navy. I mean they just manhandled them, did what they wanted to, just overall insane. I think in the first two games they put up over, I can't remember how it looked up. They put over like 600 yards of offense together. And compare that to East Carolina giving up an average of 473 yards a game. That's a recipe for disaster in my mind. It's going to be interesting. Now, is is Navy a great team? As we're watching the highlights, I don't know yet, but it's just all signs are red flags to me right now.
Yeah, I think that watching that beginning part of this highlight film, if Marshall's defensive line is strong enough to push around Navy's offensive line, I really have very low hopes for any offensive line that goes up against Navy. I mean, that goes up against Marshall. Like, I mean, Navy's offensive line is normally manhandling ECU's defense. Like
Yes.
that has been the trend for the past, as long as I've been at ECU for the past 6 seasons. But I'm like, guys, something is going to have to be different on our offensive line for us to really be able to make anything happen offensively.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the highlight package here. The defensive line's great, and their quarterback is above average. I won't say he's great, but when your defense is doing what they're doing, that gives your offense a lot of opportunity there to break a game wide open. And he's good. Like I don't want to say that like he's not a world beater, but he's good. And that to me is going to be tough. Their offensive line is serviceable. They'll protect their quarterback. They'll have a run game, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be a long day for our defensive backs too. If they're constantly on the field, if our offense is struggling and they're having to, I think there was 13 punts for East Carolina last game. That's going to be a long, long day for our defense on the field.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Marshall's running back, one of their running backs, is one of the leaders in the country in touchdowns already this season with 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if they've got a running game like that, I mean, granted, they've played an FCS team, a MEAC team that, I mean, honestly, they might honestly win the MEAC, but the MEAC's not what they were when they had A&T and FAMU also going at it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're in that conference, and then they played Navy, and Navy could really just be having a horrible year. I mean, that is well within bound. But like,
I mean, but I'm just looking here. Marshall put up 700 yards on North Carolina Central. I mean, you don't. I don't care who you're playing. If you give, I'm pretty sure the high school I work with wouldn't give up 700 yards against Marshall. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a tough.
right.
And I'll see that it's a huge red flag.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, I want to say that Marshall is as good as advertised, so that the game feels, if we end up winning and we end up doing well, that the game feels as though it is as good as advertised. But at the same time, I'm just like, I just don't know. I just don't know if I can say that.
I saw the line opened up at 10. I saw on some sites it got as low as 8 points. Currently, I'm looking right now, it's still 10 points for the one I use the most. And if we can cover the spread, I'd be tickled pink. Honest to goodness. If we could go into and they don't. It's a big deal for them too. It's a big home game for them. They like playing East Carolina. So we all know the tragedy that happened and what links us together. But they like that game. They like playing us, and I think they're going to be up for the game. I just can see it getting out of hand early, especially in the first half, out of hand.
Yeah. So what are you looking forward to the most in seeing in this game for week 3?
To be honest with you, I've heard so many questions and 2 jokes about it. I want to see what it's like to watch a game on Facebook. Like, I think that is the biggest question people, hey, what's the website? Where do I go on Facebook? How do I find the game? And I hadn't seen anything official. I just assume it's going to be on the CBS Sports Facebook page. I think I read that somewhere earlier this season when I said, oh, Facebook, that's interesting. People are dogging it about it. Hey, what's going on? We've fallen so far that we're on Facebook. But really, I think it might be an interesting way. Facebook is a weird thing. If it was on some of the other social media at the same time, maybe Instagram or Twitter, that would be interesting too. But Facebook's a different platform at this point. I like Facebook because I'm old and I can barely handle the other ones, so I can navigate a little bit more. But is that going to really help what the viewership would be if it was on CBS College Sports, or is it going to really, take away from the viewership? I plan to watch it on Facebook and listen to Jeff Charles on the radio, but I'm interested in that. But my biggest takeaway from the game on the field itself, though, is how is Holton Ahlers going to rebound from his last game against South Carolina? Another, I don't want to say squarely, but really squarely on his shoulders because he is the quarterback. The ball passes through his hands every play. Is he going to come back and have a huge game and give us a chance, or is it just going to be, hey, let's do our best, pack it in, and see what happens?
Right. I would say for me, the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is how good is ECU's defense when they're facing another challenge, like a third challenge in a row, a third, powerful offense in a row. Like, can ECU's defense continue to look better and better each week against harder and harder opponents?
Yeah, and I think they got Georgia this week, right? No, who does South Carolina have this week?
They have Georgia.
They do have Georgia. I think I was trying to figure out what time their game was. I think we'll find out a lot about how that game's going to go if we watch the Georgia South Carolina game too. If South Carolina, holds their own a little bit against Georgia, and then Georgia's a machine, really. They're minimum boys right now too. But I feel better about it. But if South Carolina gets out there and gives up 28 points in the first quarter, I'm going to be kind of really nervous.
Yeah. I also think that for me, I really, really, really would like to see how the new uniform looks with the black helmet.
Well, that's something else. You're on it, man. To me, it does not matter. You go out there in a Walmart T-shirt and pads. I don't care. There's a lot of talk about the white uniforms. I don't like the white uniforms. All white uniforms with the white helmet. The all white uniforms with the purple helmet. The black helmet looks good. I think the white uniforms look good, but I think they'll look good on I shouldn't say TV, but Facebook. But I'm hoping that doesn't really have an effect on the game, but maybe for the brand building. But yeah, harkening back to it, I say that as an older person. When I talk to the recruits and stuff, they were there. The game uniforms are a big deal to them. How they look's a big deal. So I hope it looks good and plays well. I don't know, just because I'm a Pirate fan, I think Pirates look good in anything. But I'm a big fan of the white top, purple pants. But that's just me. I don't know if we can get a choice as the away game.
I think away games you just kind of just have to wear the lighter color. But that's why I'm such a fan, and this is kind of a tangent on this, but I'm such a fan of us getting gold uniforms. I think a gold top, purple pant, black helmet. I think I think just kind of mixing it up a little bit.
I mean, I'm with you if it's ECU gold, like
right.
The highlighter from I think we talked about that too earlier. Highlighter from a couple years ago when we played State was terrible. but I'll take the ECU gold tops. I think that would be a pretty awesome look. But I don't know. Um, I like see. I'm a big fan of the colored pant. I don't know why. Just all whites to me. Just I don't. This doesn't do it for me. Just as
Yeah.
a fan, but I'm not in charge. I don't pick the color, so whoever does a great job. If you're listening,
Yeah.
I was trying to look up. Here's what I'm looking for. Weather looks good still for Marshall. I'm just as someone who doesn't like to sit out in the rain, which I think for where I'm working at tomorrow, I'm gonna be sitting out in the rain all night. Looks like good weather, warm day, low humidity, should be good football weather. Hope just for Marshall's sake, just a huge crowd, just to make a good impression on TV. But if ECU goes out there and kills it and somehow comes away with the win, it's going to be a huge win. I think it'll be one of those wins that we can hang our hat on. If we go out there and lose by 21, 28 points, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a 5 alarm fire at that point. There's going to be a lot of anger. People will be calling for people's heads.
Yeah, if this game doesn't go our way or isn't at least close, I think for whatever reason, I don't think fans realize how good the competition is that we've been playing. But it's just if it happens, someone's gonna have to answer. Someone's gonna have to start answering.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan. And if anybody ever asks me, I was not a fan of Coach Mo getting fired after the third year. I'm a big 4 year kind of guy. I don't know. Looking back at it, I was all right with Coach Ruff leaving because I was at the point where he was like, well, maybe he's kind of run his course here. But looking back, that was a curse. That's going to hang over our heads for a long time. But I hope, give a coaching staff 4 years, let them get every position filled with their players. But college football doesn't work like that anymore. It's what can be done for me right now, not what can you do for me later. So,
yeah.
We'll see how that goes for Coach Houston, which is he's a heck of a coach. We've seen he's been a winner at every level. I feel like if we just give him a little bit more time, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
So what do you think the game predict? What do you want to predict for the game on Saturday?
Man, what do I want to predict for the game? I would say, are you talking about a score or just a spread?
Either way, I'll give a score in but if you want to do a spread, that's fine.
I would have to say, unfortunately, ECU loses. Very unfortunately, ECU loses. I think I have to be realistic at this point. I've had 2 times where I've said ECU was going to win, or I've thought ECU could win, and it didn't happen. I think that right now, I have to say, unless it's a for sure we're going to win, I can't have us winning, just because it's too much of a letdown every week. So I have us losing, but I have it by less than 8.
Okay, so you got them covering the spread.
I have them covering the spread. Right. Absolutely.
I'll say, and this is not a knock on anybody. I feel like it's more of a compliment to Marshall. I say Marshall by 21. I think that I think it's going to get a hand in the first half. Maybe in the first quarter it'll be a little bit closer, but by the second quarter their defense will take over. But I think there's going to be, and I always joke on it about Clip Brock sitting up there in the press box. He has to leave early because he has to go to the fifth quarter Carlin show. It's going to be a long day for him. He's going to take a lot of angry phone calls.
Yeah.
And, but we'll see. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm usually wrong. I think I would have picked South Carolina by, what did I say last week? South Carolina by 14, I think. I can't remember. So I was wrong on the spread, but right on the win. So hopefully I'm wrong on the all the way around. I think ECU just can't hang with Marshall, which is tough to say. I mean, even harkening back to the days when we were in the same conference, they had our number then. I feel like they still have our number now.
Yeah. Do you think this is kind of another tangent type question, but do you think that Marshall right now is really trying to make their case for conference realignment?
Yeah, and I would love to have them, honestly. I think they're making a good case for it. Can't deny what they're doing there in West Virginia. You got to make the case for Appalachian State. I mean, they're just doing amazing things. I think you can make the state for Coastal Carolina. I know it's just, last couple of years of recent success, but It's what have you done for me today. Um, I'm still a fan. If we and I know at this point it's going to be tough. If we get a couple of Mountain West teams, Boise State, San Diego State, um, anybody else. So that way too. I think we talked about before. Alliance would be neat too, but I don't know if that's going to happen either. But I
Yeah.
like it. I think they are. I think they're positioned well. I think just being a West Virginia school helps them anyway. It fits our footprint. I'd love to have them, especially since we're losing Cincinnati. That would fill that gap a little bit. But I'd love to have them just because I love the rivalry. I think it'd be great to have them on the schedule every year.
Right. I saw there was an article by CBS that talked about that, and talked about the possible teams for to that the American could be going after, but they ended the article with something I thought was a great idea, and this would be my idea because they were talking about regionalism of having just combining Conference USA, the Sun Belt, and the American, and then break it up into 3 different regions.
See, about 5 years ago, I'd say that's crazy, but the way the TV market works and the way with the pandemic and how tough it is to schedule, I think it's a great idea.
Right? Yeah, I did. I didn't like how they had some of the schools placed. I think that Georgia schools and Tennessee schools belong in the East and not the South, and Florida schools belong in the South and not the East. But
Yeah,
but other than that, I think what they put out would be my like, oh man, we at that point the American Conference could keep the name because it is the American,
yeah.
and then just be the Power Six, because then Mountain West couldn't compete at that point, or the MAC would just not even be a thing.
See, the MAC, I feel like the MAC's in trouble anyway, but yeah, if they could do that, and then you could see, I really like that. But if you could, and I know the travel would be a nightmare, but if you could still lure Boise State and maybe San Diego somehow, maybe they could be your travel partners and add them into that mix. Because I think you're going to have to make a big splash. If I'm an AD in the American, I'm really pushing for the commissioner to make a big splash, do something.
Yeah, and if I'm San Diego State or Boise State, if the American wants me, then I'm just going to say, hey, you see what Notre Dame is doing with the ACC? Give us 4 games, in the conference, and if it ends up being this 3 regional thing, you can play 2 teams from one region and rotate every 3 years which region you're doing 2 teams, and then a one with the other, and it's banging after that.
I feel like they would have some great matchups, and I feel like it's just cost effective, which I hate to say because it used to be college football was such a moneymaker, it did not matter. But now with the NIL, and then you're having to cover every other sport too in the college level, be a big moneymaker. I mean, I feel like you'd be some packed houses in the South on a Saturday.
Oh yeah, I really do.
But the realignment thing hurts my brain to think about. I hope the people who are in charge of it get paid well, because I couldn't do it. But I hope for ECU's sake that the American lands in a good spot. I feel like still we're one of the top 6 in the nation conferences, even with the people leaving. But I hate to see them go. I was hoping we could somehow poach the Big 12, but it's not going to happen.
That was my hope too.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes after the Marshall game, and then we'll prepare for Charleston Southern. I feel like that's a good one. I could probably get the prediction right on, but the way the season's going, who knows?
Yeah, we don't want to look too far ahead, but Charleston Southern, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, fun night. All right, man. Well, it's good seeing you again, and we'll hit y'all up next week. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments section. We'll answer them through the week, and go Pirates.
Oh, yeah, go Pirates. Have a good night, y'all.